everybody, this is Sarah from Ozark Family Homestead, and today I'm going to show you how to make a sourdough braided loaf. Now this will take 2 days, so this is just the first step. I'm making what's called a sponge. This is when you take your sourdough starter and you add it to some water, flour, kind of depends on what recipe you're making, but this is the first fermentation process, and this can sit for however long. It's just how the longer it sits, the more fermented it gets. So I'm going to add my water, about 1 cup, about 2 cups of flour, and then my sourdough starter. This is who I've affectionately named Alibaba because he's so full of bubbles, and when you put his handkerchief on, he looks like a little desert sheep wandering around the desert, hence the alley in front of Bubba. Maybe I'm weird, I don't know. But I want to do 1 cup of the starter. And always have clean hands because you are touching the starter and you don't want to get germs in there or any sort of bacteria because he will mold and then you have to start him all over again. So I'm just going to add my sourdough starter to the flour and water. I'm going to scrape that out. And whenever you do use anything from your starter, you always want to replenish it. So I'm going to add just a little bit of flour. He doesn't need much, just enough to last until I feed him again. And then I'll take my spoon and I want to beat it into him really well so that the air gets mixed in there and all the wild yeast gets mixed into him. Do that, put his handkerchief back on, and put him to the side. And then I want to take my sponge here, and I want to stir it up really well. I can add a little more flour or a little more water just until I get to the right texture I want. I don't want it too thin, but I don't want it solid because then it's not really a sponge, it's basically dough. So I want it a little more on the liquidy side, but then again, not too crazy thick. So this is good here. It's very sticky, so not dough like right now, but it's just what I want it to be. So I'm going to clean my spoon up here, set that aside, wash my hands. And now you want to cover them up with a clean towel, or your sponge will get gnats and flies in it. No one wants to eat a bread with gnats and flies in it. I mean, I certainly don't. Okay. I like to get kind of a big rubber band or an old headband nobody uses and put it on the top, right around your bowl, so that the towel stays in place and it doesn't fall into the dough. It's a pain to get off, trust me. I've done it. So I want to just let this sit on the counter. I'm going to let it sit overnight. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to come back to it and add the rest of my ingredients and then get it going on its second ferment/rise. So we're back again the following morning and we're getting ready for the next step. This is when I add the rest of my ingredients into my sponge. But first, I've got to take the ingredients I need to add and warm them up so I don't have like cold stuff going into my sponge because that's not that good for it. So I'm going to get a 1/4 cup of water. Not much, I know. And I'm going to set it down into this pan. I have a rag on the bottom of the pan and then I filled it, maybe an inch and a half with water. I don't want my cup, my glass cup, to come in contact with the bottom of the pot. That just, it's bad. It's really bad. So I want to add to the water my sugar, my salt, olive oil. You could use butter, but it takes a while because it's got to melt and all that. I like the flavor of it in the bread, but the olive oil is just so much more easier. And it kind of, I don't know, it gives it like a slight little nutty aftertaste, I think. It's really good in it, but the butter would be better, I would think. Hold on, is it 2 or 3? I forgot. Okay, it's 3. I thought so, but I didn't want to put in too much in case I was wrong. And then I want to do 3 beaten eggs. But I want to save a little bit of this to brush on the final loaf before I put it into the oven, so it gives it kind of an egg wash shine and it gets really, really pretty. So I'm just going to put this at kind of a medium low and get it heated up and I'll come back to you. So we've gone on to the next step. The egg mixture here is nice and warm, and I'm going to now blend it into my sponge. So I didn't want this to get too hot, or hot stuff is just not good to put into your fermented sponge because it kind of shocks it and it could like kill the fermentation that has been going on in there. So I'm just going to pour this in. I'm going to mix it in there. I'll come see you once this is done. This might take a little bit. Well, so some of this process, I had it filmed. I promise, I had it filmed. But there were some technical difficulties, and the film is no longer with us. We will leave it at that. But, so I'll kind of tell you what I did in that previous video that you would have seen. So I had the egg sponge mixture all stirred up, and I put it into my flour in this bowl. And I kind of stirred it up, kind of did like a little bit of like I need to get into like a little ball. And now I'm going to go ahead and knead it really, really, really hard. And then I'm going to cover it with a towel again and set it in a warm place to rise. And when it finishes rising, I'll come and we'll show the whole thing. So I'm just going to start kneading, and I can be as mean and as forceful to this dough, and it will love me for it, because the more you beat it up, the fluffier your bread is. So this is very good anger management. So if you get angry easily, make bread. It helps. Oh, and one thing I had in that video that is now in the video afterlife, it's okay to use metal when you're doing this whole rising process. You just really want to use glass when you're doing that first fermentation sponge stage. That's best to be done in glass. Now, this could be better if you did it in glass, this whole rising process, but I don't have a glass bowl big enough to do it in, so I use metal and it works okay. The only thing you don't really want to do is plastic. That's not good for any sort of fermented thing. Okay, so we're at the next stage. This dough has been sitting in a warm place, and it's roughly doubled in size, so we're ready to braid it now. So this is the fun part. So what I'm going to do first, I want to punch it down, sticky. I want to give it a few kneads. And then, I'll set this right here and oil my surface a little bit. And then I'm going to get ready to braid. So, to do that, I have to split him into 3 pieces. Because, you know, when you do a braid, you do 3 pieces. Okay, I need to grab something. Okay, I knew I was forgetting something. So, you want to divide them into 3 pieces. They don't have to be exact. Just as long as you get a decent braid out of them. And kind of knead these together a little bit. Set the ones you're not currently using aside. And go ahead and just kind of shape them into a rope, almost. So this sometimes takes a while. Because you don't really want to stretch him, you just kind of want to mold him into what you want. Why am I referring to this as a him? I don't know. It ought to be a she. So, it's almost like playing with Play-Doh. It's really fun. Now that I have my 3 ropes, some prettier than others, I want to take them and join them together at the top of my oiled pan. I'm just using the regular cookie sheet. It seems to do a good size for it. And then you braid it just like you would hair. Outside, into the middle, outside, into the middle. And you can kind of stretch them a little bit here. I wouldn't stretch them too much. It will get bigger. And then just kind of join them together down at the end. He's starting to take shape. And now you want to sit this braid into a warm place for about 1 to 2 hours. I like to set them, my breads, when they go for their final rise, I like to set them in an oven with a light on inside. The light will generate some heat in there, and then it's confined so the heat eventually builds up a little bit, and it's kind of like a proofing drawer oven thing, that fancy stuff that professionals use that I don't know how it works, but it's kind of like that, and it helps them rise much quicker than if they're just sitting on your counter. I will be back when this has risen. Okay, so the bread has now risen, and I'm ready to put it in the oven, but first I need to put the remnants of the egg that I showed you before that I had saved. I'm going to kind of paint it on there to have like kind of an egg wash, and this is going to give it a beautiful shine when it comes out of the oven. It's going to be beautiful, and it will rise more as it's in the oven. So in this 45 to 50 minutes that it's going to be baking, it is going to get huge. I've had it bit, probably as long as my arm, and it was spilling out over the sides. It tasted great. But after I finish this, I will put it into the oven, and you will see it once it's done.